Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Brick Township Council to order. Madam Clerk?
Adequate notice of this meeting was provided and published in the Asbury Park Press and the Ocean Star on December 20th, 2019. Copies of the agenda were provided to the newspaper, posted on public bulletin boards and the Township website.
Thank you. At this time, we'll ask you to please silence or turn off your cell phones. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Here.
Councilman Minikino.
Here.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Here.
Councilman Mumolo.
Here.
Councilwoman Ponterero. Vice President Halloran.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
President Crate.
Here.
Thank you.
At this time, would everyone please stand for the salute to the flag and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please accept and file the reports of municipal officers.
I will.
Can I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the December 17th and December 31st?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by, I gotta pay attention. Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Councilwoman Zapsik. Roll call?
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Minikino.
Abstain.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Vice President Halloran.
Yes.
President Crate.
Yes to December 17th, abstain December 31st.
Thank you.
And now on to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
All matters listed under item consent agenda will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. If discussion is desired on any item, this item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Thank you. Resolution 4-1.
Establish Bank Depositories Cash Management Plan 2020.
Thank you. Councilwoman DeYoung?
Yes, thank you. This resolution establishes a cash management plan and depository designees as prepared by the Township's Chief Financial Officer. This resolution supports the investment objectives of our cash management plan, including the preservation of capital, adequate safekeeping of assets, maintenance of liquidity to meet operating needs and claim settlements, and investment of assets in accordance with the State of New Jersey's local fiscal affairs law.
Thank you. Resolution 4-2.
Authorize 2020 temporary budget.
Vice President Halloran?
Thank you. This resolution authorizes a temporary budget as required by law to be in place with the first 30 days of January. In accordance with state statute, a temporary budget which equals 26.25% of the total appropriations of the 2019 budget, the sum of $20,910,018.98, is authorized as the Township's temporary budget.
Thank you. Resolution 4-3.
Authorize receipt of bids, purchase and delivery of sanitation recycling collection system containers.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the receipt of bids for the purchase and delivery of sanitation and recycling containers, including 95-gallon, 65-gallon, and 35-gallon containers for residential use. To date, the Township had an approximate expenditure of $69,000 during the current 2-year contract period, which will expire on March 27, 2020, with Auto Environmental Systems as the current vendor. Resolution 4-4.
Authorize receipt of bids, Cedarwood Park East roadway improvements.
Mayor?
Thank you. So this resolution authorizes the receipt of bids for the roadway improvements to Cedarwood Park East project. That was approved in our 2019 capital budget. Roadways scheduled to be improved include Linwood Avenue, Fairfield Avenue, Downey Avenue, Glenwood Avenue, East End Avenue, Driver Avenue, Barber Avenue, and Harvey Avenue. And these will be paid by way of a grant, which we will leave you as a cliffhanger that I'll discuss later on. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Resolution 4-5.
Authorize award of bid on-site environmentally safe truck wash services.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the award of bid for on-site environmental safe truck wash services to Millspray Military Technologies Lakewood at a schedule of prices based on the type of vehicle. This is a unit price bid not to exceed $65,000 per year, with funds to be certified prior to each order. The award is for 2 years commencing January 15th, 2020, and ending on January 14th, 2022. To date, the Township has encumbered approximately $74,000 for the current 2-year contract. Bid notices were sent out to 18 bidders, and 8 picked up the bid packages. 2 bids were received, with Millspray Military Technologies being the lowest responsible bidder. Resolution 4-6.
Authorize closeout change order number 1, Lake Riviera Rainbow Dam Culvert Replacement and Embankment Restoration Project.
Councilman Mummolo?
Thank you. This resolution authorizes a change order decrease in the amount of $8,475 and close out of the embankment project. Change order decrease is a result of final as-built quantities.
Resolution,
I missed a part of that.
do you want to go back?
Capella Construction for the Lake Riviera Rainbow Dam Culvert replacement. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Resolution 4-7.
Authorize execution of license agreement between Township of Brick and 2026 Route 88 LLC.
Thank you. Councilman Minikino?
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the execution of a license agreement between the township and the property owner of Block 1029, Lot 20.01, known as 2026 Route 88, the location of Dunkin' Donuts. The Planning Board approved the site plan for the new store with the condition of approval that the owner grant a license to the township for the public use of the sidewalk on the property. The license agreement allows the public to use a portion of the sidewalk area along the front of the property at no cost to the township.
Thank you. Resolution 4-8.
Authorize execution of shared service agreement with Ocean County Prosecutor's Office Driving While Intoxicated Enforcement Program.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the execution of a shared services agreement with the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office for the Driving While Intoxicated Enforcement Program, which is aimed at identifying and removing intoxicated drivers from the roadway. As part of this agreement, Brick Township agrees to provide manpower when needed for enforcement. The Township receives a flat hourly rate reimbursement for the police officers assigned to this enforcement.
Thank you. Resolution 4-8. No, 4-9, sorry.
Authorize execution of shared services agreement with Ocean County Prosecutor's Office Drug Recognition Expert Call-Out Program.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the execution of a shared services agreement with the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office for the Drug Recognition Expert Call-Out Program, which is aimed at detecting and arresting impaired drivers throughout Ocean County. As part of this agreement, Brick Township agrees to provide manpower when needed for enforcement. The Township receives a flat hourly rate reimbursement for police officers assigned to this enforcement.
Thank you. Resolution 4-10.
Request extension of time for municipal aid and urban aid grant program, Cedarwood Park East.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you. Part 2. This resolution requests an extension of time for the municipal aid and urban aid grants provided to Brick Township by the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the Cedarwood Park East roadway project, which I discussed earlier. Receipt of the bids for this project is on tonight's agenda, and we anticipate receiving bids and then awarding a contract in either late February or early March of this year. So a request for a 6-month extension is prudent based on that schedule, and for those roads to be finished by way of DOT grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 411, bond releases and reductions. Madam Clerk?
Yeah, 411A is an inspection fund release for Bricktown Associates on Brick Boulevard in the amount of $2,062.19. 411B is an inspection fund release for Lepore Louisi LLC on Aurora Place in the amount of $1,535.72. 411C is an inspection fund release for Drum Point Village East Condominium Association in the amount of $441.79. 411D is an inspection fund release for William Yeamans, Inc. for Chambersbridge Road in the amount of $460.44. 411E is an inspection fund release for ASO Brothers Paving on Route 70 in the amount of $500. 411F is an inspection fund release for U.S. Outworkers, Laurel Woods, Sandra Place in the amount of $697.88. 411G is an inspection fund release for Slurry Pavement Systems on Route 88 in the amount of $42.64. 411H is an inspection fund release for EOSO Brothers Paving in Evergreen Woods in the amount of $500.
Thank you. Resolution 412, tax collector, Ms. Bergen.
Thank you. 412A is a senior deduction granted. There is one for 2019. 12B are tax overpayments. There are 3 for the year 2015. And 12C is to cancel tax balances and credits of $10 and under.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second for the end of the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Council Vice President Halloran. Open to council for questions or comments? Seeing none, closed council. Open to the public for questions on the resolutions. Seeing none, closed public. Roll call.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Menachino.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Vice President Halloran.
Yes.
President Crate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 413, Bill Resolution Computer 2020.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Computer bill resolution in the amount of $1,043,682.72.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Vice President Halloran. Open to council for questions or comments? Closed council. Open to the public for questions or comments on the computer bill resolutions. Seeing none, closed public. Roll call.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Menachino.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Abstain, CME, yes to the rest.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Vice President Halloran.
Yes.
President Crate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 414, Bill Resolution Manual 2020.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Manual bill resolution in the amount of $1,734,464.78.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion, Councilman Mumolo, second, Council Vice President Halloran. Open to the council for questions. Closed council. Open to the public for questions on the manual bill resolution. Seeing none, closed public. Roll call.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Menachino.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Abstain, CME, yes to the rest.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Vice President Halloran.
Yes.
President Crate.
Yes. And we are up to public comments.
Please note that each person addressing the council during any section of the meeting during which public comment is permitted shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes pursuant to Brick Township Administrative Code, Section 2-33B.
Thank you. Do we have anyone from the public? Mr. Foster?
Sorry for roundabout entrance here. Sam Foster, 108 Chico Drive. First of all, I want to congratulate everybody for your elections. I haven't been here since, I think it was November, before when the elections was over. So, and I did want to say that I think we're getting off to a good start. The township is by the way you recognized former Councilman Fosman for his service to the township. That was very nice, considering all the controversy going on back and forth between the different people and everything. And I'm going to be controversial when I say this, but I do not mean this in any negative way. But personally, and I hate to say this, but I would not have done what you did, because his conduct was during meetings was not something that's conducive to good, work of the townships. I just want to say that. Like I said, it's controversial, but I believe in telling it like it is. So, I also want to make a comment. This might be more appropriate with Board of Ed, but I play chess on Thursday, so I can't really get there. But this has been addressed in the past here by people regarding school funding. Is this appropriate to bring this up, or at this time, or this is something that should be more towards the Board of Ed meeting regarding the school funding? And I want to ask the mayor about his controversy.
It's your 5 minutes, so you can use it any way you like.
Okay, well, don't tell me that. I'm trying to be.
Well,
I'm trying to be
appropriately.
Yeah. See, you got to remember. I mean, I'm on what's here. Well, I just wanted to say that I haven't been here a while because I've been sick and everything. So, I do agree with what Mr. Finelli said during the Board of Ed meeting, I saw that on TV, and I saw some contact speaking back and forth here about the meetings that, I believe that the mayor just had a meeting with the governor about the school funding. And how did that go, Mayor? It's still nothing at the mayor's meeting in Toms River, I think it was?
So that was Senate President Steve
Oh, that's
Sweeney.
right, Senate President Sweeney.
So he did say in front of a room full of people that he would, he's never seen the school funding formula, but he had his staff recreate the school funding formula, and he will give that to me. Since that time, we called on Wednesday to get it, and we haven't heard back. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday so far.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to ask about that, but I just wanted to say that I will be trying to make an attempt to go to the Board of Ed, because I saw some comments that were made there, and I don't want to say they ganged up on Mr. Finelli, but they did say, I agree with what he said, because when I was in school, I moved here in 1970 with my family, I remember when my school classes were consistently over 30 students, and a lot of people were making a point about how they didn't think it was fair because their children were in classes with class sizes of over 30. But I remember that very clearly. I was, in fact, when I was at Brick High School, we had so many students, we had to have split sessions. That was before they built Brick Memorial. But something has to be done. I just wanted to say that here, and I'm going to repeat it at the Board of Ed meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Yes?
Hi there, Rita Chalk. I live at 316 7th Avenue, Normandy Beach. The reason I'm here is to speak with you about the flooding problems that we have been experiencing. I don't know if it's appropriate. I would like to show you a couple of pictures that are taken in front of my house where it is absolutely impossible to pass the street. It happens so many times this fall. I'd like this to become an issue for our town, since it's a street that provides access to a large portion of our town, the brick section of our town, and it's really become uninhabitable, and I live there year-round for this situation. There has been some talk among ourselves about raising the street, about increasing the sewer height to try to solve this problem. The latest episode was on New Year's Eve, where my son-in-law actually shuttled people who were trying to get out to 35 to parties and stuff, where normally they would be walking. They were unable to pass. So it's become quite critical to those of us who have to live with it. So I'd just like to mention that. I'd also like to, I'm sure this is not popular with you, but I would like to say that I do think it's appropriate that the mayor did not allow the town to increase the tax rate over the 2% cap. Our taxes are extremely high to begin with, and New Jersey is a state that is taxing people at a rate that is well beyond the national average. So I actually am in favor of the decision that was made by the governor. Okay, that's all I have to say. Would you look at this?
Sure. Yes.
You don't want to see my grandson?
Oh, my.
That's right outside the front of my house. So, and there's two pictures there. One looking across the street and one looking down. So, I mean, it's a good foot to a foot and a half of water. It isn't passable. In fact, over the holidays, we tried to even take my grandson down to the playground that's at the Bay Beach Club, and we're unable to do it. We can't even use the facilities that are provided. It's gotten to be very difficult. Thank you for.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Mr. Sluka?
Good evening. John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. I'll read my letter that I sent, I think it was last week. Okay. Dear Mayor Ducey, Council President Lisa Crate, and all the Brick Councilmen and Councilwomen, basically everybody else in the world. We all know here that lobbyists and bureaucrats pretty much control our state. The governor and state senators are in office for themselves, it seems, and their cohorts, as well as their cohorts, and never seem to show that they have interest in the common citizen. They do things to enhance their own power and fulfill the dreams of their political and financial backers. The bureaucratic swamp of this state makes the Washington insiders look like babies when it comes to corruption, manipulation, and downright unwholesome rottenness, but there's no reason to just give up and succumb. The governor, state senators, cohorts, and in-green bureaucrats are powerful, so they must misrepresent the facts to further their power and expect the residents to sit back and be content. The New Jersey Turnpike Authority commissioners are examples of those in the swamp of New Jersey and use their unelected political payback positions to award friends and cohorts. The governor, who has proven he is no friend of Ocean County's people, cares only for his own honorarium while he rewards his friends. We citizens hope and pray that our elected officials in the school board, superintendent of school, the mayor, and council do act as real representatives of the people and do as they said they would in speeches over the last few weeks as being a part of the team of unity. A team of unity with the mayor, council, superintendent of schools, board of ed, and people and children of the community. The governor and state senators have proven they don't care about Brick's residents and their actions concerning our school system, with their actions concerning the state school system, and additionally their inactivity as it concerns noise and pollution from expanded roadways like the Garden State Parkway. The team of unity must take political, social, and legal action in order to correct the imperfections of the judgment of the governor, senators, commissioners, and the functionaries who care only for their own political serfdoms. We must stand up and, along with the mayor, the superintendent, and all elected officials, do what is right for our children, our seniors, and basically all our residents. The actions of the governor and the state senate have proven that we have no friends in Trenton, as I mentioned before, and actually we should consider them opponents of the common sense, and that would be much more accurate description. They are harming the educational well-being of our children, and along with the actions of the governor, appointed New Jersey Turnpike commissioners, they are causing COPD, asthma, autism, heart problems, and premature deaths to our residents. Local jurisdictions must be restored to our school system, and a 14-foot noise pollution and safety wall, along with shrubs, trees that have substantial density and height, must be created in areas of Brick Township, including Evergreen Woods, the Town Hall, Brick High School, Greenbrier, Briar Mill, Lanes Mill School, and in fact many other areas where the toxins are harming our seniors, our school children, and basically all our residents, and the workers as well. We can believe the thousands of studies from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the Nurses Group, the medical journals, American Lung Association, World Health Organizations, Time and Health, and thousands of other places here in America and around the world that expose the health impacts of the noise and toxins and the perils of the major highways, or we can believe the lobbyists of the swamp. It's time to save the children of Brick, and in fact, all the citizens of Brick and Ocean County. We need to be a team of unity in order to end the rapacity and imposition of the state government. It is time for forceful actions by the team of unity. The swamp must be drained, and the politicians and bureaucrats that once again adhere to the foundation must force them to adhere to the foundation rationale of this country. The logical thinking and intelligence must be reestablished. After all, are we not a government of the people, by the people, and for the people? Thanks for your time. I yield back 45 seconds.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Yes, sir. Yeah. Did you want to? Yeah.
Hi, my name's Alan Rothman. I live at 318 6th Ave in Normandy Beach. I'd like to start off by thanking Mayor Ducey and Joanne. I know Alyssa's not here, but I'd like to thank you guys for arranging our meeting with FEMA. Thought it was very helpful and productive. I have a couple comments and questions. They probably would have been addressed to Alyssa, but maybe you guys could shed some light on them. I'm going to ask the questions since I only have 5 minutes, and then if you could answer 1, 2, or 3 of them, that would be nice. My one comment I'd like to make is at the FEMA meeting, we spoke about housing developments and projects, and the church facility came up in Normandy Beach, and one of the comments made was how come in Point Pleasant that when they did the housing development there, the town, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody said that the town forced the developer to enact a plan to help with the the flooding issues that the new houses would create. And I believe they put in a pump station and ran a pipe out into the ocean, which is what I believe we spoke about. So my question is, and I don't want to play Monday morning quarterback since nobody likes a Monday morning quarterback, but I don't understand why at the church facility that developer wasn't forced to do the same thing. The one thing that they did do where they drained into the lagoon, I believe has made 7th Ave worse. But moving forward, I would like to just go on record and say that, there's a big piece of land left called Camp Osborne on Route 35. I don't know what the status is of that as far as how they're going to develop that, when and if they're going to develop that. But I'd just like to say that if that land is going to be developed, which I'm assuming it is, that developer should be forced to do something to help alleviate the problem and not make the problem worse. The one thing that I did hear from the FEMA meeting is there is a buyback program, and I'm wondering if the town would consider maybe, and I don't know I don't know the status of that property, if eminent domain was claimed, if it's going to be redeveloped. I'm wondering if the town couldn't get the FEMA to buy that land back, and maybe use that to help solve and alleviate some of our problems. We talked about doing other solutions. That seems to be, to me, that would be the most feasible solution, since the land is there and it's empty. So maybe you could comment on that. And last question, also at that meeting, I did some research and found out, Alyssa said that if you go down Broad Ave and turn onto Normandy Drive, on the corner there is a hole in the bulkhead, and Alyssa, I believe, said that was done on purpose to alleviate the flooding, that once the streets got flooded, the water had nowhere to go, so they put the hole, meaning the town, put the hole in the bulkhead, and that would alleviate the flooding. After the hole was put in, the town came and put a storm drain in, but never patched the hole, and now that if you go over to where that storm drain is, that road is ready to collapse over there. There's probably a 2-foot wide section, maybe by 6 or 7 feet wide, where when the water comes in through that bulkhead, it's washing away all the underlayment, the dirt, the gravel, the sand, everything under the road, and now there are 2 huge sinkholes there, probably the size of a spackle bucket, and you could clearly see that there's a section of road in between those 2 spackle bucket sinkholes that's ready to collapse as well. So I would just like to suggest that with the flooding issues that we have and the rising sea levels, that we become a little more proactive than reactive. When the town put that sewer in, all they did was pave the road higher and paved over the hole in the bulkhead, and now the whole road's washing away, so we're throwing good money away at bad money here. Now if we were to just patch the hole in the bulkhead when they did the road, it would have solved the problem. Now not only do we have to patch the bulkhead, but now we have to replace the road there as well. So my 5 minutes are up, but if you could answer any of those questions. I know Alyssa's not here.
The only thing I'll touch on is the Blue Acres program. So, as you heard from that meeting, we go to a lot of these, different FEMA meetings and state meetings, and one of the comments that a lot of times comes from the speaker is that BRIC's leaving a lot of money on the table because of the Blue Acres program that is available. But the Blue Acres program is available to homeowners, property owners. They have to apply for it, and despite all the flooding problems we have here in Brick, we've never had one person ask for Blue Acres. So Blue Acres it's a state-run program that if it's a flooded district and you no longer want to own your property, the state will buy it from you. So we've never had anybody apply, including Camp Osborne, so
So
it's,
is that still all owned by individuals?
yes.
Yes.
Yep, and not one of them have applied. Like I said, nobody in the entire town, mainland, Barrier Island, Bay, Lagoon, River, water, oceanfront, nobody's applied for it because people like to live where
And
they
I
live.
see it's never been rebuilt. Do you know, is a developer looking to develop?
Yeah, they have application pending before the Board of Adjustment or Planning Board? Planning Board? Planning Board.
Is it safe to say that they'll be forced to do something to help alleviate the flooding problem before they build?
Yeah, they have to address the stormwater on their site, always. Every applicant has to do that. The church property had to do that. Everybody has to address the drainage problems of their site. You can't coerce them or extort them to do stuff that, we'd like to see other stuff in town. We'd like to
Right.
see a bunch of stuff. You can't do extortion in order to do approval. So they always have to address what's on their site, yes.
Well, thank you. And since Alyssa's not here, I'd just like to maybe have her or somebody take a look at that hole.
Yeah, we have, so the hole's going to be repaired. That wasn't done by the town. The hole was done by somebody else.
Okay,
But we talked to TJ today, who's the guy you may see out there.
okay.
And he said that one of the next things he's doing is repairing that hole. But that was the first time I heard about the road. TJ would know if the road has a problem because he goes
So
out there
there
all the time.
are two massive sinkholes there, like
So
you said, the size
he
of
knows. He just didn't mention it to us.
It
and
looks
the
like
first
that
time we
whole
ever heard
area
of
is
it was
going to collapse.
first time I heard of it was just now. So,
Right.
but we'll remind him. But I'm
Okay.
sure he knows about it. He just didn't
Okay.
mention it. He said there's a hole in the bulkhead. I don't know why somebody would do that. We got to fix that up. Yep.
Well, thank you. And thank you.
Thank
Not
you.
sure what else.
Yes, sir. Oh, did you want to say something? Go ahead. Ms. Bergen?
So I just thought, if it's all right with you,
Yes.
Council President, I just wanted to add like an overview of where we were at for the benefit of the entire council. I know Councilman Halloran was able to attend the meeting that the residents referenced that we held on December 18th. FEMA sent some representatives, and there were several representatives who are here tonight who were also at that meeting from Normandy Beach. We had extensive discussion on potential strategies to help alleviate the problem in the short term while we examine long-term viable options. We absolutely consider this an issue for our town. It's a global issue that's having local impact, so that makes it more challenging, but we are committed to identifying short-term strategies while we pursue bigger long-term goals with larger agencies that are, can come to the table and assist our town. So I wanted to start off with that to address your concerns. So a couple things that we have done since the December 18th meeting. We did some test capping. We put some bladders in pipes and extended the number of pipes in the area that we were intending to do as a pilot, hoping to alleviate some of that. So they installed the bladders, and it helped to a certain degree, but it is by no means a solution because groundwater is still coming up. We have committed to putting funds in our 2020 capital budget, which we've mentioned individually to some members of the Council on Business and Finance, and you have all been very supportive of the need to put capital money aside for flapper valves, which will also help not only in Normandy Beach and the Barrier Island, but also in other areas, low-lying areas of town that are having the same problem. This is absolutely not specific to one neighborhood. There are several neighborhoods that are experiencing the same problem. The Land Use Committee, as it's formed to have its first meeting, we've mentioned this to the chair, Councilman Mamalo, that we would like to talk about some of the legislative pieces that might address some of the problems, whether it be bulkhead elevations, other zoning type of regulations that we have to change that might have an impact, so we are intending to do that. We'd like to apply to FEMA for some funding, and I think to do that, we really have to set aside the time and the energy to be strategic with how we do that. The key to getting any money from FEMA is to successfully have a rating on your benefit cost analysis. So for FEMA, their expenditures are how much are they spending on claims, and what proposal are you bringing to FEMA that is going to reduce the amount they're spending on claims. That's the benefit cost analysis. So by funding several $1 million on this long-term project, are we now going to have less claims? That's a challenge here because a lot of what they're going through isn't generating FEMA claims. So we have to pitch it in a way that, or apply for a certain type of funding that doesn't have the emphasis on the cost analysis. But if you're FEMA, you're going to be looking at saving money. So what we talked about doing, and the residents were, certainly on board with that, is that this is a problem that is bigger than our township. So we have identified and looked to professional engineering firms that have had a successful track record in projects along these lines, in conducting benefit cost analysis, in applying for FEMA funds, and the large scope of different types of FEMA funding programs that are available. We met with an engineering firm, ACT Engineers. They took the lead on several programs in Ocean City that are very similar to what we are going through in Brick Township. They came in for a rather lengthy meeting with us and talked about their experience in Ocean City with pump stations, with dredging, with all sorts of projects that are relevant to Brick Township. We were very impressed with their experience, with their expertise, with their successful track record in working with FEMA and outside agencies on identifying projects, because the key here to actually see change is a strategy. And while we're trying lots of things now based on your real life experience of what it's like, the bladders, filling the hole in the bulkhead, we'll try anything. We'll try anything if it will give you some immediate relief, but we have got to have a strategy. We've got to have a strategy that will put us in the queue for the funding that we need for a project that's really going to make a difference. So we've met with them. We were very pleased with that meeting. We've asked them to give us a proposal. As we do with all of our outside consultants that we retain, one of the first things that we want for them to do is to come in and meet with our residents in their neighborhood, in their area, when they're going through the worst of times and the best of times, so that they get to know the landscape and the conditions. And they'll take that experience and they'll take what you're living through and help us come up with a strategy. So retaining them is not going to be cheap, but as long as we're seeing a benefit for the township of a plan, not only for your neighborhood, but for the other neighborhoods that are suffering, and it's a strategy that we think will be successful, we will proceed with using the right professionals to help us come up with what we can do and what we need to pitch for outside agencies to help us do. So that's just an overall summary of where we're at and what we are doing to try and make a difference and get some real results for our neighborhoods that are suffering.
Thank you. That was very comprehensive and helpful. Yes, sir.
Robert Palmisano, 525 Broad Avenue, Normandy Beach. A couple questions. The firm you were just mentioning that you discussed the issue with, are they the same firm that the town's retained for other projects?
We have retained them to do a townwide dredge permit and to do the survey work necessary for us to obviously have a strategy on how we would dredge.
So I've been a resident for 20 years. I was ground zero for some of this flooding. For the last 15 or so years, I've been speaking to the mayor, borough administrator, Alyssa, about the issue. And I'm wondering why now, 15 years later, is the town finally considering hiring an engineering firm to look at this problem. This has been an ongoing problem. It's nothing new. I guess the voice wasn't loud enough. A few months back, I actually had a phone call with both the mayor and the administrator, and that was following up to a meeting I personally had with them about a year ago regarding this issue, and nothing seems to get done. Well, I came back and I finally sent an email blast out to many residents of town, and we kind of that's when initiate the whole organization of people getting fed up and wanting to get a unified voice out. But I don't understand why it took that for the town to see that this is an issue. The flooding in Normandy Beach is not new. It's getting more pronounced. It's becoming more common, of course. New Year's Eve, I was not here, but from my understanding, my son was here. It was the worst flooding we've had on the Barrier Island since Sandy. I mean, nobody could pass through those roads. It was extremely dangerous. And again, there was no police presence in town that night, and that's a regular, we know that during flooding issues, the police do not patrol town. The mayor disagrees with that.
That's absolutely inaccurate. There was police present on New Year's Eve, there's police presence 24 hours a day, 7 days a week
Well,
in your
there
community.
were
Because
residents-
you did not see one drive through your house after just saying you weren't even in town, I don't think you should say something like that.
Okay, but there were residents who actually were stranded and were
And
going
did
to...
they, if they called the police would have responded, we have the vehicles and equipment to get out there and rescue people.
I think it's prudent and it's needed immediately to retain an engineering firm with qualifications. The gentleman from FEMA, the one engineer, had great qualifications. I think this is a much bigger problem for Alyssa than her qualifications. She's a great engineer, but this is a much bigger, it's out of her league. So I think we need an expert. Some of the short-term solutions, for example, in 2016, you repaved Broad Avenue. You raised it, you put new catch basins in. Just this past weekend, we had some rain. Ironically, 2 of the catch basins are adjacent to my home. The catch basins were dry, and there were puddles all around them. What does that say? That says that the road was not graded properly, whether that's an engineering issue, whether that was the construction company who built the roads, but the catch basins are higher than the majority of the road. It's supposed to be the opposite. Catch basins should be the low point to drain the water. So that means, I think it needs to be addressed immediately. And then lastly, I know you're paving right now, or New Jersey Natural Gas is paving Normandy Drive and Ellison Drive. Because of the damage they did to patch the road from when they put new gas lines in. Broad Avenue is a mess from a patch standpoint. And a lot of those patches are from, again, when they put dewatering holes in or dewatering pumps in. So those holes were patched. And I'm wondering if there's any knowledge that New Jersey Natural Gas is going to repave Broad Avenue in the short term.
I'm aware Kylie's out there, and they had a paving project, but I haven't seen the details of what they're intending to do because they have not submitted their permit paperwork yet.
All right, can someone get back to me on that?
I will ask Alyssa to get back to you.
Sure. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Yes.
Melanie Briggs, I just have a question. I watched the meeting with the members of the Parents Association, whatever. And they all had questions, and they all wanted to know what you're going to do to help, what you were going to do. My question is, the President of the Board of Education and the interim superintendent were here. Why didn't you call them up and have them answer the questions?
It's not their meeting.
It's what?
It wasn't their meeting.
That's just not a good answer. They were there. They're the ones that should have known what the answers were. You have meetings where you have authorities on different subjects that come up and answer. You call accountants up, you call bookkeepers up. You had the people that sent them here, and they just sat there. I hope this isn't the way it's going to go for the rest of the year.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mayor, and Ms. Bergen. My name is Stephen Timoni. I live at 542 Broad Avenue in Normandy Beach.
Oh, can you just
that's-
raise your microphone a little bit? Just
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oops.
Don't send me.
Thank you.
542 Broad Avenue, Normandy Beach, which is at the corner of Broad Avenue and 6th Avenue, which is a pretty severe flood area since I've lived there. I've been in Normandy Beach, my family's been in Normandy Beach since 1970. This is by far the worst flooding season we've ever seen in that area in Normandy Beach, near the Bay Beach there. It's dangerous, hazardous, it's unhealthy, and it just can't continue like this. Just want to make sure that every member of the council is aware of the problem. If you haven't, there's some great videos out there that you can view and actually see what we live with, okay? And if you haven't seen it, you're not going to take this very seriously, so I think you really do need to see it. I've been sending emails to Mayor Ducey for a long time now. He's been kind enough, courteous enough, and professional enough to respond. Problem is, the responses haven't been productive. We haven't seen anything happen since then. I think that the focus of the remedy should be the floodplain management plan that the town produced and is reviewed on a regular basis. I kind of wish we had input, and I think maybe we could have, but we didn't seize the opportunity to have input in the development of this plan. But to be selfish for a second, I draw your attention to an initiative here, and it's identified as BK18. And this is right where I live, right across the street from my house. And that initiative was to acquire a drainage easement, which wasn't necessary, I understand, over 300 square feet of private property abutting Broad Avenue and South Harbor Lagoon, where the beach is, to develop a low-lying runoff collection point, reconstruct the drainage system, provide a tide check valve on the outfall pipe. That would allow Broad Avenue pavement service to be elevated to prevent flooding without causing flooding to adjacent properties. The only thing that I'm aware of that was done in that initiative is to provide a tide check valve on the outfall pipe that's there. Providing that check valve failed. It was a failure. As soon as it was put on, it failed. I think it was attempted to be repaired, never done, okay? But this initiative is marked as completed in 2017. Were any of those things actually done in that initiative to mark it as completed?
Township engineer for you, but our understanding was that it was completed, but again, let us confirm that for you.
So a drainage system was constructed. That's what you're representing to the town.
Well, the
to
report
residents.
says it was completed, and I've told you that I would be happy to confirm that with Township engineer.
Does anyone know how old the drainage system is in Normandy Beach? I'm going to guess it's 70 years old. How's that guess? And it's never been repaired, replaced, looked at in that period of time. It doesn't work anymore. And I'll close with some questions. I think before we come up with a plan or a strategy, there's a very simple question. Where's this water coming from? Does anybody know? I've asked this question a number of times. Is it rainwater that's not adequately draining? Is it tidal water backing up through those pipes? Is it groundwater coming up through the surface? Is it water from the bay that's breaching the bulkhead and the beach? I live right across from the beach. I've never seen water come up through my ground. I've never had water underneath my house that's come up from the ground. I've never seen any water rise up through the sand on the beach. So how is this a groundwater problem? Don't you think we ought to figure out where the water's coming from first before we start spending? I'm hearing spending millions of dollars. You're going to spend millions of dollars. You don't even know where the water's coming from. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council, mayor. My name is Dennis Warnock, W-E-R-N-O-C-H. I'm a small taxpayer at Block 1428, Lot 2, Lanes Mills Road, Brick. I purchased the lot at a town property sale more than 2 decades ago. As an oversight or having the best intentions, the land is a non-buildable lot with 38 feet on the paved road. As time went on, a few homes were developed to the side and rear of the land. I've made attempts to expand the property size only to learn from the tax office that the lot next to me was now owned by the town. The adjoining property or on my side boundary is the high school ball field. I contacted the business administrator's office to give back my property to the town with no response. In October of 2019, I again made an attempt to donate or give back my lot, 1428, Lot 2, and was told that it was a floodplain, that a protected EPA insect occupied the area. Further, I was told that it would be too costly for the town legal department to execute the necessary paperwork. And I ask you tonight to give me relief from this, because for the 2 decades, I've paid the taxes, and I got no benefits, and I'd like some relief, especially in light of the advice from the gentleman who prepares my taxes. So I ask that someone consider this paperwork to be an expense that you'll give me relief on.
May I?
Yes,
Councilor, let me apologize, because if it was communication through my office,
Yes, Mr. Rello and I had
Okay.
sat down together,
Okay.
and he talked to me.
Okay, so, I apologize if there was a not closing the loop connection, but Councilman Mumolo is the chair of our Land Use Committee. Any land donations are first blessed through the Land Use Committee. We look at the value of the land, would it count towards our...
It's assessed for $7,500.
Not necessarily the dollar value, but it's a value to us if we are taking on the responsibility of land that would otherwise not be buildable, because it would count towards our CRS.
I don't know if it was an oversight at the time of the land auction, but it would just, even though I'm not the caliber that you gentlemen and ladies are, I would have thought that the people involved would have gave it to the Board of Education for the ball field. Or in fact, if they do own the adjacent lot, they would take it back because it's 38 feet under paved road.
Well, it was a land sale, which is how the township is obligated to make available land that has a dollar value to it. We can't pick and choose who it's offered to. It has to be done through a land sale because it's
But
public bidding.
I am
it's public
suspect
property.
whether it should have been put up for public purchase anyway.
Well, I can't go
And-
back.
And that thought came to me 2 decades later.
Understood. So I'd like to refer this to our Land Use Committee, because they ultimately decide all land donation requests. And if it's okay with Councilman Mumolo, I will arrange for that to be placed on the next agenda.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from public? Yes, sir.
Larry Reed, 475 Normandy Drive. Just getting, first of all, thank the mayor for confronting Senator Sweeney on the formula for distributing aid. That's, an ongoing problem, and it's ridiculous that they say it's proprietary information. So we appreciate any efforts that you put forward on that, but this isn't the Board of Ed meeting. This is the council meeting. The council owns the streets. We from Normandy are here because you own the streets, you own the catch basins, and this is the proper venue to talk about fixing our flooding situation. First of all, they are paving Ellison Drive and Normandy Drive in the Journey's End section. That's where I live. And the gas company is doing that repaving because they messed the roads up and they have to fix them. So I did ask the supervisor if they were going to do Broad Avenue, and he says, well, not probably until the spring. So this should be a point of coordination between the town and the gas company, because if they're going to spend a lot of money just to repave the current existing surface level, you really need to raise the road. It's part of that initiative that was mentioned by a previous speaker, where they said they would put in a check valve and make sure there was drainage so that they could allow Broad Avenue pavement surface to be elevated to prevent flooding. So, this is how you coordinate with other people that are going to help you pay the bill. Because, the water level on Broad Avenue affects 119 residents that try to get in and out of Normandy Beach brick section. 119. Okay, so it isn't like a minor issue. It's the only way out for those 119 people. And it's the low point in the brick section of Normandy Beach, so the water just flows downhill. You know, when you have direct the water out to the street from your property, it goes downhill and it flows into Broad Avenue. So it's no mystery where it comes from. And then because we are at a low elevation level, I did get the plans from the 2016 project from that the town did from Alyssa Cummings, and it shows the elevations, and a lot of places are below 2 feet. Well, the tide is coming up, as everybody knows. So the water's coming from the bay. We have most of the flooding from the bay. So they have a tide elevation chart in Maniloki at Old Bridge Road, the end of Old Bridge Road on the island. And you can just see from the chart, you can download an app that shows you what it is, and we have one of our residents, when he's not in town, he can tell by the elevation on the app whether it's coming over the bulkheads or not. So I was here on the 31st at the meeting around 10:30, public comments, and said we already had water in the street and it was low tide. So sure enough, by 3:30 at high tide, you couldn't pass. It was deep. So getting back to the floodplain management plan for brick, you have a lot of initiatives in there. And a lot of them are to raise the roads. You raised Snake Road 4 inches. It was 4,000 feet of pavement. You raised other roads down at off of Princeton Avenue, South Drive. So there have been a lot of roads that have been raised as part of your floodplain management plan. Okay? So without going through every initiative, this plan was created in 2016. It's supposed to be redone in 2021. And in there you have medium, short, the time frame short, less than 5 years. So all these other areas that had flooding, they've had some roads raised. Ours hasn't been raised. When is it our turn? So the council, now this is your budget, right? When you come out with a council budget, it's $100 million. How big is the capital expenditures budget? Approximately $8.5 million. Okay, so in that capital expenditures budget, we've waited a lot of years. I've lived down here full-time since 2007, and this situation with the flooding has gotten worse and worse and worse. And that's why you have all these people from Normandy Beach here. It's gotten impossible to drive through it, and it's a real crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else from public?
Steve Kirby, 7th Avenue. I was here for the last 3 meetings, and I appreciate the meeting the mayor put together with Joanne and Alyssa to talk about our problems and get some ideas out there. And I appreciate the letter that came out like 2 days later with all the different bullet points of action. So I'm here to help. I'm here to help with your strategy. I was a little blown away because I said we should have a football-sized catchment area north of the Bayside Park. It's no man's land up there. It's kind of empty, no homes. It's across from Brick Beach 3. And I really believe if you put a catchment in the area there, dredge it out, there's pumping going on all the time now, bulkhead it off, go down 20 feet, 10 feet, put cement underneath it, and all of a sudden you have a barren area to catch all the rainwater. Pump that up over the ocean and stop all the rainwater from coming in and stop worrying about the rainwater. Plug off all the damn storm drains that are useless now. They're all underwater. There's a plug on one on around 7th Avenue near Mr. Palmisano's house. It's underwater with a plug in it. If that plug wasn't there, the water would be coming up all the time. There's a misconception or a confusion among us whether what's going on at 6th Avenue. But for the most part, 8 out of 10 times, the flooding comes up the the storm drains. So I think Brick should talk about closing off the storm drains. You got to do something with the water, so pump it up, small pumps, big pumps, up to this catchment area. So then I was doing, everybody laughed at me. So nobody's doing anything about it, and I stumbled upon what is called a combined sewer system, which is used up in Hoboken, New Jersey, because they're under stress there. I didn't realize, and I worked there for 20 years, or right around there, Hoboken was an island once, and behind it was all marshland. So you had the, I guess, New York Harbor on one side and the marshland in the back. They filled it all in, and now they have problems, just like we filled in all our area. We filled in Dutchman's Point and Curtis Point, most of Normandy Beach, pumped out the water and pumped the water away, put sand up. The only guy that would remember any of this is Art, probably, the Councilman Halloran, because I've been there for 50 years, and you might be the only person around here that's older than 50. So when I found out about this combined sewer system, I put together at least two in Normandy and Brick, pumping stations that pump the sewage out down the road, down 35, over Maniloki, and out into some sewage treatment plant. So instead of putting a new drainage system in, you can put rain water, wastewater, and industrial water into the same pumping station. We don't have any industrial water out there in the Barrier Island, but if you put the rain and the waste in the same pumping stations that are taking everything off the Barrier Island back to some sewage treatment plant, you can clean it up and let it float back. But that's one way to stop all of this rain. It comes right down 6th Avenue, 7th Avenue, because the ocean side is higher, and it flows right down. There aren't any sewers or storm drains on the ocean side. Everybody wants it to roll down naturally from the ocean to the bay. So all the storm drains on the bay side have their own rain to consider, plus everything that's coming down from the ocean side. If you could capture it at 35 south and have a pipe going north, either into my famous catchment basin or picked up by the pumping stations, you could get rid of it all and close off all of the storm drains and build the bulkheads like we suggested a couple of months ago. Bulkheads raise all the properties when people buy a new house. Plant trees, it's in your plan, the neighborhood plan. Plant trees, less impermeable coverage, that means get rid of all they're trying to put sidewalks in. What do we need sidewalks for? Nobody on the Barrier Island wants sidewalks. We don't want macadam, we just like the gravel. Every house that's new should be required to put trees around it to suck up all this stuff. Up north, they do that. You buy a new house up north, you got to plant 4 or 5 oak trees in your backyard. They force all the neighborhoods up there to put catchment basins in there. So if a developer like the church parking lot wants 21 houses, he should have had 3 houses subtracted and put a sump pump in the middle of it, or have some trees or something like that, or a bioswale, which I learned about in this book. A bioswale is an area where the water drains into it, and there's all sorts of little plants around there, dune grass, and it sucks up all the water. I don't know if anybody in this council ever read this report. With 5 to 10 good suggestions in here, 20 stupid things. It was the simplest report I've ever saw. I don't know how much you spent on it, but I'm thinking that if you can put a meeting together with us and the people from Trenton, or wherever you were talking about earlier, I think half the residents could come up with some suggestions. But thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir, in the green shirt.
My name is Mark Wipperman. I'm at 546 Normandy Drive in the Normandy Beach section of Brick. It won't take a lot of time. Just pursuant to what Mr. Kirby was describing and what Joanne, you were describing before as contact with consulting engineers. And I applaud that speedy response. That's terrific. My question, though, is we in the community have some ideas, but we're not going to tout ourselves as being floodplain engineers. So, and I imagine there's a process that you have to go through to select and then deploy or employ the consulting engineering group. Would money to support that be available in this year's budget, or what kind of timing might that involve?
Well, let me cover a couple pieces of that. So while, yes, we recognize that the folks that live out there are not technical experts. You're absolutely, positively, day-to-day experts about what's happening. So when we met with ACT engineers, we told them that we wanted their proposal to include resident meetings out in your community.
That's terrific.
Right? That's always essential to us, is not to be planning for you, but planning with you. And we asked them to call that out specifically in their proposal, not one, but several meetings, so that we would all remain in dialogue in real time with what you were going through as they went through their process. We met with them quickly, as we promised we would when we had that meeting. One, to be sure that we were keeping this ball rolling with fire, but secondly, so that we would have from them a proposal in hand as we went about the process of our capital budget for 2020, because the soft costs for projects...
For 2020.
Right, so we need that dollar amount so that we are putting it into the budget that we are working on as we speak.
Great. That does answer my question. 2020
Excellent.
for a potential engineering assessment.
Correct. We
Hand in hand with the community.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Mr. Finelli?
Vic Finelli, Meadow Point Drive. I just wanted to share with you a couple of things that happened recently, so you know what I know. Last year, I mentioned here that the NJEA gave $4.5 million to Governor Murphy's dark fund, which is called New Directions. The disclosures came out this year, and added to that, the NJEA gave $2.75 million to the dark money group called New Jersey United. That's for Democratic Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin. Did you ever wonder why the NJEA gives so much money to the very people that are cutting our school budgets? You don't have to answer that one. Yesterday, Governor Murphy vetoed the bill that would allow school districts like Brick to raise the school taxes above the 2% cap. My way of thinking, he got it right. If you watched his State of the State today, you might have doubts about other things. This Thursday, the school board is going to vote to approve $25,000 for Netta Architects to do another referendum. This will be the third time. Hopefully 3 strikes and you're out. Now we know why they spent zero money on security upgrades last year. We're going to try and do another referendum on top of the 2% that's going to happen every year from now until the end of time. Last meeting, the mayor commented, and he was comparing a school district to a football team. And they have to have a long-term coach. Remember that? And I was going, yeah. Well, we have a new coach. At the last meeting, I asked how many applicants we had for Brick, for the superintendent, and the answer came back 31. So I asked how many we interviewed. No, I asked them how many we interviewed. The answer was 4. So I was like, really, you only interviewed 4 people? And the answer I got back was, well, we interviewed some of them before. Not how many, I don't know. I was also told that the new superintendent was number 2 on the list last year, so maybe we should have got him in last year. I only hope we get it right this time. Just a comment about water and tides. I live off of Cedar Island and Mandalay, and I don't have a flooding problem. In fact, when Sandy came, my house was the highest one in the whole neighborhood. I got no damage from the water. So, strong selling point, I took pictures. However, I've been there 20 years, and all I have to do is look out my window, where I sit in the kitchen all the time, and look across the lagoon to see how high the water is on my neighbor's dock. Now, that neighbor had 4 feet of water in his house when Sandy came. If the water is really up to the bottom of his dock, touching, I know we have a really high tide. That used to happen maybe once a year. And I've been there 20 years. Lately, it happens like once a month. On top of that, there are rare occasions where his dock is underwater. So I know it's like they have a problem. What's unusual, and I don't have an answer for it, is that on days when I'm home and I go through 2 cycles of the tide, that water level doesn't go down. If it's touching the bottom of his dock and we go through high tide, low tide, high tide, that water level stays in the lagoon the whole time. It doesn't happen often, but it happens. Now, I don't know whether it's global warming. I don't know whether it's the cycles of the moon and which direction the wind is coming from, but there are occasions where that water is high for 24 hours in the lagoon. I don't know what you can do to fix that, really, but I think when the question is, where is the water coming from? I understand flooding and I understand rain, but those high tide cycles, there is no place for the water to go, and when it doesn't go, you have flooding. I have no idea how you're going to fix that. Are you going to still be the school coordinator?
Of course.
Oh, well, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Anyone else from public?
Good evening, my name is Tom Worth, 555 Carolina Avenue. We're going to change the past a little bit. So I was fortunate enough to have a little vacation out in Utah. And what do I see on the news about a riot in Maple Leaf? Everybody here has heard about it. I want to commend the police. They have been down, knocking down places, going through, stopping people, and doing a great job. They need help. So what's our plan here for security? I don't know. Maple Leaf, I live about a mile away, and I'm concerned. Okay, it seems to be getting worse, not better. With shootings, and now halfway across the country, I hear about a riot. It's like, that's kind of odd. It's like, oh, you live there. All right, so Maple Leaf, from my understanding, is condos half rented? Yes, no?
They're condominiums, yes, they're owned
They're
condominiums.
So,
Yep.
some people own them, live there. Some people rent them. What kind, are there anything we can do to leases to hold the people that own the buildings that are living somewhere else on their property? I don't even know if our school system is even looking at addresses where people are coming from. Do we have 10 people living at one house? Are we having an influx from other towns residing there, saying they reside there, and going to our school systems? Happened in my hometown, where I came from. People from other towns were going to our school district. I don't know. There seems to be an awful lot of kids in that area. It's condos, I get it, right? But everything I hear from the press, which half the time I don't believe anyway, I do look at Brick Patch all the time. It's an awful lot of kids. The shootings, outside influence. So I don't know if we can do anything there. So that's all. I'm just concerned about the safety of our neighborhoods. We're having car break-ins now. They're hitting people at the Tilton Fitness all the time now. The neighborhood's going down. That's going to affect property values. Property values are tax dollars coming into the town.
So we have a responsible landlord ordinance. We need help from people. I spoke about that on January 1st. So the fight that happened with the kids at Maple Leaf didn't happen on a property. It happened in the street. So unfortunately, we can't use that landlord ordinance because it didn't happen at a property. But if somebody's convicted of a crime, and a crime can range anywhere from not cutting your grass to murder and everything else that's in between, in a 2-year period, we bring the landlord in before a animal house prosecutor and hold the landlords responsible. But we need those convictions. Now, criminal convictions, they take a long time, a lot of times, because you have to develop a case, and it sits down at the prosecutor's office until they goes through grand jury, and so on and so forth, and the whole criminal system, court system. The quicker ones are the property ones. So that's why we're asking for help for residents around town. If you see property maintenance violations, to let us know. We can send code enforcement out. There's violations that are issued for things, cutting grass, messing up, bushes are too big, there's maybe a gutter falling down, whatever type of property maintenance issue, unregistered cars that are on the property, that are on grass, they have to be on cement. There's all sorts of different code violations. Together with the police, those two things, we can get these convictions, hold the landlords responsible. We've done it in the past, but it doesn't seem to be, I'd like to use it more. That's what it's there for. It's a tool to help out our town. So the Tilton Fitness, I don't know if the chief knows about it, but I'll let him know tomorrow. I haven't heard anything about Tilton Fitness until you just mentioned it. So we'll let the chief know tomorrow about Tilton Fitness. And so what we do in Maple Leaf Sawmill area is we made it its own precinct. So it's so we used to only have 4 districts. They're called districts here, but a lot of people from up north or from TV hear the word precinct. That's why I use that sometimes, but it's districts. So we had 4. Then the new chief came on and decided to make 6. So now we have 1 out in the Barrier Island. So there's always a police officer patrolling on the Barrier Island instead of being on Adamston Road and having to get all the way down there. But the small one and the kind of intensified area is at Maple Leaf and Sawmill area. So it's its own district now. So there's always a police officer that's patrolling. We have instituted bike patrols that are there. We do an after-school homework program there. We do a mentoring program there to help out. So if you probably have noticed, because obviously they had the fight there, that there was a recent problem. But before that, in 3 years, you can ask the chief. He's like, everything was going a lot better there. Things were much better than 5 years ago. 5 years ago, if you remember, there was a lot of crime there. Intensified effort with the chief. Things have changed, and then this one incident happened, which now puts a big spotlight back on it. But the chief is going to continue doing the same thing, leave it as a precinct, as a district, get the mentoring program and everything intact, and just work with everybody there. But as far as the school, I don't know what the schools do. You'd have to ask the schools as far as checking addresses. That I don't.
It's just,
That I don't know.
more tax dollars out the window if we have people coming from other towns and using our systems.
If you ask Steve Sweeney, we need more kids. That's what he keeps telling us. So.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the police again. They've been doing a great job. I don't consider it safer when there's shots in the neighborhood, though. I really don't.
Yeah, that was up the street. You definitely don't.
I
But
know
it was somebody from out of state and somebody from out of county, so it wasn't even brick people. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Yes, sir?
I'd just like to ask one question to the council. I understand the problem is overwhelming. I'm sure everybody would like to solve the problem if they could. You had mentioned an engineering study, which I totally agree with is needed, and that it possibly will be in next year's budget. I'd just like to suggest, I'm not sure if anybody here has heard some of the notes from the FEMA meeting, but one of the things they did mention is that there is $200,000 available to a town to do a study. You had mentioned that, you really think that we need to put some time into this. I understand nobody's giving away money easily. I'd just like to ask the council if you would consider maybe hiring an intern or a part-time employee, maybe somebody that if you only paid them, I'm throwing numbers out, but a part-time person or an intern, $25,000 a year, and their sole responsibility was to go after federal and state money for these flooding issues. If you would spend $25,000 to get $200,000, I think we would all agree that that would be a good business plan. I understand there are drug problems, Board of Ed problems. I know the flooding is not your only concern, and that you're all probably overwhelmed with your jobs. So I was just wondering if anybody's thought of that, if you guys even know how much federal and state money is available, and that being the magnitude of the problem, if you would ever consider hiring somebody whose job was strictly to go after federal and state money that's available.
Yes,
If I
Bergen?
may.
Yes.
We do have somebody on staff who is a grant coordinator. So we have that person in place with extensive experience and success track record at applying for and researching grants. So we have that person. In terms of the grant for the study, it isn't necessarily you throw it in, Brick Township, we've got a problem, come help us study, thank you very much. It is a very specific, engineered, a technical application, and that is why we intend to use the consulting engineers to also do that application. The technical merits of it will determine whether or not we get funded for the study. So they will take us soup to nuts through the study and the end results of that. And it's not next year's budget. We're in 2020, so it's this year's budget.
I just figured I'd throw it out there. Thank you. I know
Thank you for the
so you have a
suggestion.
lot on your plate. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Yes. Too far.
Suzanne Dyer, 420 Olive Court. I just want to speak to the program that the mayor mentioned before regarding holding landlords accountable. We had an individual in our neighborhood, and in fact, we made numerous phone calls. There were multiple problems with this particular family that was renting. And the landlord, I think, had a history of renting to people that he was an out-of-town owner. So ultimately, the folks that were living there had some legal issues. They no longer live there, but after, I guess, many complaints made on the house, it has been completely renovated, and it looks phenomenal. I think the landlord realized he didn't need to continue renting to the individuals he had been renting to before. So I think it took several years. It did not happen overnight, but it did work. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then the second thing, as a member of the Shade Tree Commission, plant trees to help with flooding. That's, we need to do that. It was a great recommendation. That was in the report the gentleman mentioned before. And anywhere we can do that, I think it doesn't resolve any problems, but maybe it can help some. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Yes, sir.
My name is John Fitzgerald, 508 Broad Avenue, Normandy Beach, and I just wanted to reinforce everything that everybody said here today. I don't want to get redundant. Had about 3 or 4 inches in our garage on the flood of New Year's Eve. I just got down here today before I came here, but it is what it is. And we're not a full-time resident yet, but we will be in 5 years when I retire. And hopefully by then we'll have a good strategy. As you talked about before, we'll have some solutions, and we'll be able to renovate our house and move down here full-time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Seeing none, close public. Ms. Bergen.
I've spoken enough tonight, so thank you.
Sure?
I haven't spoken enough.
Of course. Oh, all right. Mayor?
Thanks. So I just want to say we have our Brick Heroes Awards that is coming up, and that's February 21st at 7 o'clock at Brick Township High School. And what that is a award ceremony that honors like the everyday hero in brick. So it could be somebody that ran into a burning building and saved somebody from a fire. That's an obvious hero. But it could also be somebody who helps somebody cross a road or helps a senior citizen carry her groceries back from ShopRite to the housing authority. Whatever the case it is, whatever you think is a hero, that's what we're looking for nominations for. It doesn't matter how small you think it is. If it's important to somebody's life, it's important here to Brick, and that's why they're a hero here in Brick. So we need nominations. They need to be made by email to bwhite, WHITE, at bricktownship.net. And it's February 21st, 7 o'clock at Brick Township High School. And again, even if you don't know anybody, show up. It does cost to get in. It is a fee, and it's an awesome ceremony. There'll be community dance troupes and music groups and things like that in between. But the actual heroes and hearing the stories about what people have done here in Brick it's kind of inspiring to hear the different things. So again, it's everything from teaching kids at the after school program over at Maple Leaf and helping out with that program to just all sorts. Some police officers are honored for doing what they do. One was honored for saving a dog that was in the river and things like that. So it's awesome. It's February 21st, 7 o'clock at Brick Township High School. Coming up Thursday, 2 days from now, at 9 a.m., we have the ribbon cutting for our newest business, which is Dollar Tree. It's the largest one in at least Ocean and Monmouth County, if not more counties, I think. It's in Laurel Square. It's next to the At Home, and between At Home and where Corrado's is going to be in June of this year, Dollar Tree. And then in the afternoon at 4:30 is a ribbon cutting over at Artis Senior Living, which is a memory care center on Jack Martin Boulevard. And both of those grand openings, even if you're not going to shop at the one and you don't have anybody to go to a senior memory care center, they're giving away food. There's going to be food there, face painting, balloons, all sorts of fun things for all ages. So it's kind of, they want them to be community events. Our municipal offices are closed on Monday, January 20th, in observance of Martin Luther King Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Sunday, January 26th, is our free rabies clinic, and it's from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, and it's at the Drum Point Sports Complex. So if you have any pets that need the rabies shot, that's our free clinic. We do it every year, and it moves fairly quickly, even though it's going to probably be cold, and you'll be standing in line for a little bit, but it moves quick. Friday, February 7th, is our daddy-daughter dance, which is just what it describes, daddies and daughters, at the rec center on Chambers Bridge Road. And then February 21st is Mom and Her Prince Dance, which is the mom and son dance. Contact Recreation for registration for both of them. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Yes? No? Madam Clerk?
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing? Councilwoman Zapsik?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Wow. Okay. Councilman Menachino?
No, I have nothing either tonight. Thank you.
Whoa. Councilwoman DeYoung?
I just want to remind our seniors out there, it is open enrollment season for Medicare, so please call Senior Services if you want to meet with them to talk about your Medicare plan or anything like that. They can be reached at 732-920-8686, and that is if you want to schedule an appointment to go over Medicare open enrollment. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mumolo?
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing their problems, concerns with the flooding. As a council, we're concerned. I live on the water. I see how high the tides have been. It's really high. So I'm sure what we'll be doing, looking at avenues and land use and whatever we can do to remedy these problems. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, but we'll get active in looking at helping you with this problem. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Vice President Halloran?
Thank you. I agree with Councilman Mumolo. I've come through the neighborhoods and seen firsthand the devastation and the difficulty the residents have out there. I did want to just set one point, the record straight. The planning department, who oversaw the floodplain management study, actually had meetings with every neighborhood, and I believe it was actually in your clubhouse, where they had displays and met with the people. I don't recall how many people we had attending, but we certainly contacted everybody out on the Barrier Island, all the associations out there, to make sure that everybody had some input. So we didn't forget you. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I just have a few things. First, I'm really excited about the Dollar Tree. I wish I could be at the ribbon cutting. I promised the library I'd make a couple of announcements. So just some upcoming events at the library on Saturday, January 18th. It's Dungeons and Dragons Saturdays. Go join the library for a 4-part Dungeons and Dragons fantasy adventure every Saturday in January for ages 6 to 18. There's also homeschool happenings on Tuesday, January 21st from 11:30 to 12:30. It's a Legos and lunch. The library will provide the Legos if you provide the lunch for yourself and your child, ages 5 to 11. And finally, Try It Tuesday is also on Tuesday, January 21st from 6 to 7 p.m. Have fun exploring science and crafts for ages 6 to 12. As always, you can register at the Brick Branch. You can call 732-477-4513 or go online and register at the oceancountylibrary.org. And finally, I just want to announce that I've been working, and we as a council will be working with the veterans organizations here in Brick. So specifically the VFW Post 8867, American Legion Post 348, the Disabled American Veterans Chapter 20, and the Vietnam Veterans of America here in Brick. to begin to refurbish the monument that is out in front of Town Hall. So the idea is that that will be resurfaced, and we will be including every name of every fallen hero that has not been added to this point. I believe there are, I don't want to don't misquote me, but there's only like 9 or 10 names on there, but there are actually 18 soldiers that have that were lost that we would like to include on that monument. So at this time, we're working with those groups. We're doing some fundraising campaigns, and we are reaching out to local businesses in order to raise those funds to not only resurface the front of the monument, but to, we'll be taking out the fountain, and we'll be putting some seating in there and make it a little more appropriate and reflective for what that area is. So we're hoping to reach out to small businesses. If you're a small business in Brick that would like to help, you should receive a mailer. And we're very lucky to have such a great Public Works and Parks and Buildings and Grounds Department here in Brick, because they're going to be pitching in as well. It's going to be a dual effort between the town and our veterans organizations in order to make this happen. So if you have any interest, you can call or email me personally. I'm on the Brick Township website, and if you're a local business, look for the mailer, and we'll have some of these donation forms available and sponsorship forms available here at Town Hall that you could pick up as well. So thanks for anyone who'd like to help out. And our next scheduled caucus and public meeting will take place on Tuesday, January 28th at 7 p.m. Motion to adjourn? All right. All in favor? All right. Have a nice night.